Listen to the vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Vibes. I'd love to welcome here Matt Cook, who is a health and sex researcher. And we're going to have a great conversation today. Before we do that, let's kick it off right. Matt, tell us a little bit more about you.
I am so lucky to be a health and sex researcher. What could be more fun than that? um, I've coached over 80,000 men. Typically, I work with men over many, many years. And what we did is I started coaching men who have ED, and then we found out so many of them had health issues. And so we started working with them in those, and it's been fantastic. And I'm here because I live this life. I've been together with my wife almost 40 years. And I never thought that I would be happier today and more thrilled and have more love in my heart than ever before, because that's not supposed to happen. You're supposed to be all bored. You go out to the restaurant and you see a couple, and they've been together a long time and they don't say anything, and they're bored, they're bored with each other. And it's like, oh, is this all there is? So that's personal experience that brought me here. So I want to say that it's important that somebody lives the life that they're talking about. So in a relationship, I have found that there are certain milestones, and there's things that happen in common with all those milestones, Kyle. For example, the first year, there's like a honeymoon period. So much of this is hormonal. So there's a honeymoon period where these hormones are going crazy and you can't get enough of each other. That lasts about 9 months to a year. That always dies after a year, sometimes shorter period of time. So then you go into hopefully you've become in love with each other, and it's not just about sex. It's not just a physical thing. There's a companionship that's developed. You like some of the same things. You enjoy each other's company and all of that. And if that's the case, you can stay together for a long time, but typically 7 to 10 years is the next relationship milestone, where a lot of things fall apart. Do you know how long the average marriage lasts these days?
I imagine not very long.
Well, the average is 9 years. And a lot of them are, that's an average, but a lot of them end 7 to 9 years. And the reason is because at that point, the honeymoon period is long since passed, and a lot of people just don't develop the depth in the relationship. And it's just, and I'll talk about an angle involving sex that also accounts for it. So if you get past that, the next one is around 25 years together. I've been surprised in the past by so many people that were divorcing, and you've been together 25 years. What are you talking about? Why are you breaking up? And the guy or the woman will say something like, I don't have, forever on this earth. I don't want to live my life without actually having to live my life. Right. And so while I have some time left and I'm healthy, I want to kind of explore things and all the things I didn't get to do because I got married. And so that sort of is what a common thing you'll hear when somebody breaks up a relationship after that. And then if it lasts past that, it can generally last for a long time. But I have found that almost everybody is not that happy or bored in their relationship, especially as the years go by, especially when they have the kids. When they have the kids, that becomes the center of attention. Then the kids start going to school. Then they're less and less. Then they move out. Hopefully, in our culture, we raise our kids to be independent and hopefully to be on their own and have their own life, which we've done a good job as parents if they do that. But then we're like, oh, empty nesters, looking at each other. And I found that the reason is, there's a fact that we don't really understand very well. Most of us think that sex brings us together, and in a sense it does. But there's also something called the orgasm cycle. Have you heard of the orgasm cycle?
No.
Yeah, so there's a very hormonal element to relationships and to love. And love can be sexual or non-sexual, obviously. The love of a child, love for a pet, love for nature. There's a lot of different kinds of love, parents. But the sexual love, the romantic love, involving sex, when we have an orgasm, there's actually a hormonal fallout from that. Marnia Robinson and the late Gary Robinson wrote a fabulous book about this, Cupid's Poisoned Arrow. And basically, there's a period named after President Coolidge, believe it or not, the Coolidge effect. When after we have an orgasm, the man, the woman start looking at other partners with interest. We start, for like the next few days, we're actually less interested in each other, more interested in a novel partner. And there's more ups and downs. There's an emotional ups and downs that can create a lot of kind of emo, anger, sullenness. We don't usually pick up on this. The first year during the honeymoon period, you don't have this, but after that, you do. And so what I had found is that there's some things physically that we can do as a hack that allow us to have a tremendous relationship that is better and better all the time, so that our friends will go, "What are you doing? You guys are so happy." And we really are happy together. And I found that they're physical things because they involve this sex to avoid the fallout of the orgasm cycle and to be more interested in each other all the time. And these things work better as we get older. They actually work better for us. They serve us better. Because what I found for women especially is a lot of times a woman's sex drive will decline after they have children. And if you think about it, it makes sense because a woman's sex drive is really sort of designed by nature for them to want to find somebody and have fit, healthy children that are strong and able to grow up in the world and pass on their genes, right? Mm-hmm. Once they have children, it's common for women's sex drive to decline, especially that period where their periods become irregular and then they stop menstruating altogether, called perimenopause and then menopause. At that point, a lot of women's sex drive plunges. Mm. And I have so many friends and so many students that say, she's not interested anymore. Men are interested when they're 95. They still want to be able to have a functioning sex life. But women, a lot of times, lose their drive pretty much altogether. I have found that if you change the way that you have sex and you do some of these physical things, very, very helpful. And women love it. And it keeps everything alive and keeps things wonderful, no matter what happens to her sex drive. And even if the man has physical issues such as type 2 diabetes that may cause ED, doesn't matter. You can still have an amazingly fulfilling sex life. So I thought, since this is a short format, I would just kind of go into some quick tips that might work. And I'll just talk about it in standpoint of a existing relationship. But I will briefly touch on meeting somebody, because a lot of people are in the, wanting to meet somebody. And I just say the big issue just with meeting people, my first tip is not to get sexual too quickly. I think it's a big mistake that people are making today when they kind of jump into bed too fast. And what I would always advise people to do is I believe in getting physical very quickly, closing the physical space between a man and a woman, holding hands, hugging, kissing, making out. All of those things are good. But you don't want to have intercourse. You don't want to have any other type of sex till this sort of bond is developed. What that does is it builds oxytocin, which is a hormone secreted in the brain. And oxytocin creates a much more loving feeling with both of you and bonds you together, and it also makes everything much, much better. And it's really all about preserving and maintaining high oxytocin levels. That's what keeps the relationship alive. After an orgasm, oxytocin levels fall. And there's a hormone secreted called vasopressin, which actually it creates a refractory period for men when they can't go again, but creates those orgasm cycle effects for both men and women that can go over about a week. So everything's about raising oxytocin. And if you don't jump into bed too quickly, and if you bond and you have physical closeness for a few, 3, 4, 5 times, whatever your beliefs are, some people aren't going to have any sex till marriage, whatever. But if you do that, if you delay the sex for a bit, it's much, much better as a foundation for the relationship. So my second tip, and interrupt me anytime, Kyle, because I could talk about this for hours. Second thing is there's really a dominant or submissive person in a relationship, and there's nothing better or worse about it. And it isn't always the man that's dominant. It's sometimes the woman that's dominant, and that's fine. And it's good to be consistent. The relationships that break apart are when they both struggle for dominance. It's always good if somebody is at the head of the table and somebody's not. It just works better. And generally women like it if the man is more dominant, but not always the case. Number 3, sex is a continuous process. Love is continuous. It's in and out of bed. It's all the time. So flirting all the time. I'm always teasing my wife and flirting with her and touching her and, joking about sex and having sexy fun. And it's like, without having any sex, it just keeps her knowing that I desire her and that I'm interested in her that way. And I think that is a very, very important part of maintaining a strong relationship. Flirting all the time. Okay. Number 4, this is a tough one. Okay. This is a tough one. Now, I find that, men look at sex a lot of times as I have to please the woman. And women look at sex as, I have to please the man. Unfortunately, this is why a lot of women will fake orgasms, because they want to please the man, and men don't really enjoy as much because they're worried about the woman so much. And it's really weird, but I found out that if you really just, as a man, focus on yourself, or as a woman, you focus on yourself and what you like, it's much better for your partner. It's, people say, well, Matt, isn't that selfish? No, it's not. It's actually better because it's not a performance. If you're pleasing yourself, and let's say you like to do a certain thing with your woman, and a certain sex act, it gives you pleasure, gives her pleasure. Fantastic. Do it because you enjoy it. That's what I call the rule of one. There's one person in this world, that's you. She is one person in the world, that's her. And the more that you just really focus on yourself, and it actually works better. It's amazing. You'll see it. It really takes the pressure off of anybody. It makes it a lot more fun. It's a lot better. So I call that the rule of one. The next thing I think is keep stroking, stay physical. You know, I stroke my wife's back. Everybody likes to be touched. Touch is so important all the time. And we touch a lot at the beginning, then we sort of draw apart, and then it's almost like we're coexisting with each other. That's a big mistake. You want to keep stroking, you want to stay physical. Now, here's a big point. People will say, well, you know, we don't do it as much as we did. We hardly ever do it at all. That's a mistake. So what I suggest, and this is controversial, but I know it works very, very well, and that is to schedule sex. Now, hey, that's not spontaneous. That takes the fun of it. No, it doesn't. It's not spontaneous, but it's much better. When I wasn't doing it this way, when I wasn't scheduling it, I was always trying to manipulate my wife to get her into the bedroom.
Right.
I was always trying to do these things. I didn't like it myself being manipulative, but we all love sex so much. I was trying to get her, continually trying to do that. And that put pressure on her. So now we have a schedule. So we have cuddle days and we have sex days. And actually, pretty much every day is a sex day these days. But scheduling it is vital, especially if you're really busy. And the morning is the best time for sex, by the way, not the evening. Especially before you've eaten, in the morning is the best time. Having sex after you've eaten is usually not nearly as good. But scheduling is really good. Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever your schedule is. Then you stick to your schedule, even if you don't feel like it. Unless there's some guest in the house next door and your walls are paper thin, or someone's sick and with a communicable disease. Otherwise, you do it, even if you don't feel like it. This is what keeps relationships alive, believe it or not. It's so helpful. Okay, so another one, number 7, look into each other's eyes. There is so much intimacy in eye gazing.
Yes.
And what I do is I just tell my wife, look at me, and look in her eyes. And I make her look into my eyes. It's hard to do. It's uncomfortable at first, but it builds such intimacy. And when you are having an orgasm, if you have your eyes open and you're looking into each other's eyes, it's a much, much more intimate and amazing feeling as opposed to having eyes closed. Eye gazing, and this is a vital thing. Okay. Number 8, don't stop kissing, especially kissing on the mouth. And try to do lock mouths each other and really kiss for 30 or 40 seconds. Now, she may not be used to this. This may be new. So you say, and I'm talking as if I'm talking to a man, but women can do the same thing. Let's just do this. Let's lock lips, honey. Let's kiss for 30 or 40 seconds. Let's try this. So you just nicely, slowly ease into these things. She'll really enjoy it. He'll really enjoy it. You can do tongue, no tongue, that's purely optional, but this long kisses is also very intimate and really builds and maintains interest in each other. And I can't tell you how many couples stop kissing. Big mistake. And that's when they start drifting apart. This is where cheating happens. This is where they start losing the interest in each other. Kissing keeps everything really, really together. Number 9, this is the one that men always think is the worst one, but it's the best one. When men ejaculate, they lose. Having an orgasm for 15 or 20 seconds is great, but what I suggest people do is not do that every time. Maybe every 3rd time or every 4th time, depending on their health, depending on if they're taking medications, how old they are. So it's something that I actually schedule, because if you don't you just have like, you can have 30 or 45 minutes of intercourse. Intercourse is by far the most healthy, best, most joyful thing in life. Then you're done and you go on with your day and you're ready again. And you don't have that orgasmic fallout. You don't have that orgasm cycle. And at the beginning, you go, what's the point, Matt? That's the whole reason we do it. Well, once you get into doing it this way, you start realizing that time together with each other, time when you're inside her, time that starts becoming better and better and better and better. And actually, you'll start noticing the fallout when you do ejaculate. You'll notice it because you're not doing it all the time. And then you really notice the effects. And you'll start having a lot more pleasure and a lot better connection with each other. And this is what really helps bring the relationship to another whole level. Incredible love. Now, the some of the Indian and Chinese that developed these ideas thousands of years ago, they believed that the man should be careful, should not do it all the time, but the women can do whatever they want. They were kind of a very male-centric, sort of a bit of a, a little sexist culture. I think, women can do what they want, men can do what they want, but it's also good if women also decide they don't want to come each time as well. But that's, I never try to pressure my partner. But if then you end up having sex for 30 or 45 minutes each time, and it's so much better. And at the beginning, you don't feel that much. Then you start feeling more and more the pleasure, the sensation, everything increases. I have found it's very easy at that point to have these whole body orgasmic feelings when we're together for 30 or 45 minutes. I have a woman that is just a business partner on some of our work that we've done together. I've only met her once. She's married. I'm married. But she said exactly the same thing works for her as a woman. Exactly the same. That works exactly the same. So she practices that in her marriage. And I found that this is probably the most game-changing thing in my whole life when I just started doing this way, because we all learn sex from, nowadays we learn it from porn. I'm in my mid 60s, we didn't have a lot of porn, fortunately. So I just learned it, the good way, which is through the schoolyard, through health class, Mrs. Linden. In other words, I really didn't learn it at all. And we just started doing it and we don't think about it. We go, oh, it's automatic. Well, there is an automatic program that's there, but nature designs it so that as a man, we ejaculate quickly. We lose interest in a person because that's what spreads our genes around. That's why we're here, because our ancestors were very successful. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here, right? We wouldn't have been born if they weren't super successful at this sex stuff. But that's not about pleasure, staying together, having a wonderful, joyful, loving relationship. That's just about spreading one's genes around. So there's another program that exists in our brains that when we don't come all the time activates. Remember I talked about oxytocin at the beginning? That's what builds oxytocin and maintains this incredible connection. So when you start doing this, in my experience, you feel more in love with your partner than you ever did before. And it's more pleasurable to be with them. And your brain probably just lights up. If you had a functional MRI, it'd be like a Christmas tree lighting up when you see them. You start digging each other so much. Now, some people naturally find this. They're called swans by the scientists. Swans are thought to mate for life. Maybe 10% of people that are together figure this out on their own. They have a great relationship. They live their 50, 60 years together, But most people don't figure this out. But my formula will get you there. It'll make you so thrilled and happy and that with your partner and each other. You just can't even believe it. It's just so simple, too. And that's really most of what there is. Last two tips I will say is avoid watching porn. Porn is very, very harmful. Yep. It creates an idealized feeling of what people should do or shouldn't do, should look like, should not look like. So much about it wires our brains to watching other people in the sex act instead of our engaging in it. It's very, very harmful. Some men or women don't get harmed as much, but some do. And I've seen many, many men I've coached that had ED from watching porn and from using porn. But regardless of that, it's harmful for everybody. It's a very, very harmful thing. I'm not one of these people that said it should be banned. But I personally would, especially if I had children, I would be so careful. Have parental controls. The cable company can make it so that they have these parental controls that you can't really bypass. The router can have it. And your phones have it. I would just be so careful. Last thing, masturbation. If you do that, you could do it with your woman there, and she can be with you instead of doing it by yourself. And that it helps deepen the relationship. It's just there's no secrets between you. And it may seem weird. Maybe she won't like it at first, although women should realize that men do this all the time. It's men have a strong sex drive. That's what they do. But if you kind of get into it with your partner, it becomes a shared thing. It's just one more wonderful thing about life that can deepen the relationship rather than making it worse. So those are my major tips for keeping a relationship alive with the little sex hacks.
Quick question. What if you or your partner have a health issue where
Mhm.
you're not able to have sex?
So for men, I'll talk about separately for men or for women. For men, the big issue is they can't have an erection. Fortunately, in my book, which I'll give away free to your audience, Romance to 120, I show you with diagram exactly how you can have the most wonderful intercourse in the world, whether or not you have an erection. It's completely optional. You don't need an erection at all.
Hmm.
And some men can't get an erection for a while because of prostate surgery, type 2 diabetes, medications that they're on. There are different reasons. Men erections will have problems when they have health issues. The body will generally shut off the sexual maintenance of the sex equipment in order to focus more on the like triage, on the important stuff. So that a lot of times when you bring your health, improve your health, get off some of these medications, maybe find a different blood pressure medication, maybe figure out a way to lower cholesterol without a statin, maybe figure out how to do some glycemic control without the drugs that they're. I'm not saying you shouldn't listen to your doctor, but there are options. Then a lot of times you can get erections that are good again. But meanwhile, you're still having sex. It's very easy to do. For women, they lose interest in sex and they don't want to have sex because the old way of having sex is what I call pump, come and done. Doesn't serve women very well after a certain point in life. Some women will get most women will get atrophy in their vaginal lining called vaginal atrophy, where it sort of thins out. If women are being treated, if they've had breast cancer, they have other things after menopause, they'll have that problem. But if you do the sex this way with the non-orgasmic all the time type of thing, it's much more gentle. And I found many women who've had yeast infections, they've had painful intercourse, they lost interest, they become interested again when a man starts down this road because it's very gentle and very pleasurable and it's more about the connection with each other. And it's not, this act of just trying to get a release. Does that make sense?
Yes. And what if, and I know there's not a whole lot out there that's listening that has come across this problem. Let's just say that you have a spinal injury where you can't. You just
Well,
can't.
you can. I had a guy who had fallen about 80 feet in a climbing accident who was paralyzed and he actually had children. There's a ejaculatory reflex that's towards the lower part of the spinal cord that actually works even if you can't get an erection. And again, my intercourse anytime method is anybody can have intercourse, even if they've had an injury. I'd say it's very common for men to have prostate cancer and then they have surgery, radiation, sometimes chemotherapy, and this will kill their erections. And I'm not sure it can be reversible. A lot of times I don't think it can be, but it is always possible for them to have a great sex life regardless. Now, if you take a guy who's dating and he goes, I don't want to date anybody if I'm not getting an erection, that's just too embarrassing. And I understand that. But I felt many men date successfully even with that problem because women, or especially older women and very attractive women, they're not really dating men that have fantastic erections and just the best sex performance, if you will. They've been through a lot of issues with other men, and so it's not a big surprise. They like it if a man is forthright about it, and like I said, it's very easy to be able to have intercourse without an erection and have very pleasurable. And in my book, I'll show this to you. Very simple how a woman can have orgasms, and she doesn't even know that you're not hard. Can't even tell. It's really interesting because the actual nerve endings that women have for the pleasurable sensory perceptions are in their clitoral apparatus or in the first 3/4 inch of their vaginal opening, basically. So you don't need to be deep in there. You don't need to be hard, believe it or not. And unless she sees it, she can't even tell. So, I felt many, many men. And the worst tragedy is being alone in the rest of your life because you think, oh, I can't have an erection, therefore I can't have sex, therefore I can't have a relationship. It's completely wrong. I had a couple that were together. They both had very severe diabetes and had obesity. They were both very obese and they had never had sex. I showed them this. The very next week, I got this most over the moon note from the wife or the woman. And she said, we're going to get married. She said, I never dreamed we could be this way. We having great sex all the time now. Thank you. You've just opened up everything and we've been engaged and we're going to be getting married. And it's a very common thing. And I don't think he ever had an erection or ever could. It doesn't make any difference.
Do you have a website?
Sure. So I'll give away a copy of my book, Romance to 120, and I have a website, which we have a newsletter. We focus sort of on male health topics, but it's all built around studies. And women like subscribing to us too. It's dailymedicaldiscoveries.com. So if you go to dailymedicaldiscoveries.com, it'll ask you for your email address, and then we'll start. And then I have a physician, an MD, a board certified MD, Dr. Ari McGill, who also works with me, and we do research. We have a team of researchers, and so you'll get our research reports every day, and they're easy to follow. We give you the studies that we're talking about, and it's just really, really wonderful. So that would be it, and then I'll send you a copy of the book as well, Romance to 120, an electronic copy of the book, which is it's been I don't know, 70,000 people have bought the book, but I'll give it to your audience for free.
Wow. Thank you. And are you on social media?
Best way of reaching me is if you do YouTube. I have a channel, Real Matt Cook or Daily Medical, which you can find on YouTube, and I do that. But the newsletter is the best way of doing it. We have things that we talk about that they really don't like us to talk about on social media. They are, I don't know if you've seen this, but there's a huge financial support that they get from the big pharma companies. And we don't ever knock big pharma, but we try to help people avoid the need for that. And they don't like it too much. So we've gotten a lot of censorship, but email is not censored. So best way is dailymedicaldiscoveries.com, and then you get our newsletter. And then people email me all the time and I respond to them via email.
Well, I'm going to put your links in the description just to
Perfect.
make it easier for folks. Matt, thank you so much. I know this was quick.
Well, I hope that it's been helpful. I think that just a little bit like drinking from a fire hose. If you listen again, I would highly recommend to read the transcript, go to the website. There's a lot here. And if you're really wondering why something is fun, or don't want to be one of those people that has a dead bedroom, want to have incredible life and get things back together or keep it going the way it has been going, this is the way.
Well, again, thank you. And also want to thank you out there. If you are new to the channel, I hope you'll come back. Please hit that subscribe button for my regulars. You guys are awesome because you make it possible for me to do this. Until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network